Hollywood has gone too far left when Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld are telling you it's gone too far left, and they don't want to play college campuses. And the thing is, comedians were dipping out from college campuses in the '90s. That's how intolerant the tolerant left wing college kids were even back then. And now it just wouldn't even. It's just pointless to have speakers that offend the sensibilities of these delicate little useful idiots. So Seinfeld does this interview and says Hollywood has replaced enjoyment with disorientation and depression. And it's back in the day would have just called it preachy and heavy-handed or politically correct, and now it's just the umbrella term of woke. So Seinfeld and Larry David, who would have been liberals for the '90s, just standard, left of center people, are, or according to the left wing kids, literally Hugo Boss, just because they're not as woke as the narrative demands. And Seinfeld has been gently talking about political correctness for decades now, back when it was called PC and not woke, and it's all the same stuff. The basic concept is brainwashed, useful idiots trying to make decisions for other people, and more importantly, using social media to pressure comics and comedy clubs and Hollywood in general to only allow a woke narrative. He says in the interview, they have no idea that the movie business is over. Film doesn't occupy the pinnacle in the cultural hierarchy that it did for most of our lives. Absolutely true. And then he refers to stand-up as being kind of a skill, but that's in demand. It's yes, but you still have to have a club to perform in, and then you have to have a distribution network. And we're in the discussion of captured industries. There's really not many Netflix, Amazon, HBO type of groups that can disseminate this politically incorrect stuff, and they don't. There's very little that's politically incorrect. So the basic concept, I guess, is censorship by Bolshevik weirdos, where it should be that if you didn't like a movie or a guest speaker coming to a college campus or a stand-up, you just didn't literally pay money to go see them. The Dave Chappelle stuff, people paid money so they could complain about it. It's a bizarre mindset. But these blue-haired, virtue-signaling weirdos will start harassment campaigns against anyone who goes against the globalist narrative, even slightly. And Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld are still two left-wing guys. They're literally Hugo Boss, just like Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer. You look at these kids and you're crazy. Everything you're saying is crazy. You've gone so far left that you're considering left-wing people to be far right. So what have we ended up with? Well, you've got a Hollywood that makes bullshit propaganda that even when it isn't preaching to us about all the woke left-wing talking points is, oh, look, non-white people are so smart and have the moral high ground, and those dumb blonde people, am I right? Yeah, that's kind of every movie for the past 20 years. You think about maybe changing the narrative a little bit, change up the script. Go, what are you, some kind of Nazi? Yeah, that's a totally fair assessment. The thing is, when they're not making movies that you can look at and go, oh, this is just preachy garbage, at the best, they make movies that are just nothing. They're just a, unflavored piece of toast. The movies that just sit there, like the past 5 years of Marvel and DC, it's just a checklist of, a Larry Fink type of checklist. Where a good example is Margot Robbie made Suicide Squad Part 2. That was just a nothing movie. It was just, I don't know, like watching AI plastic robots try to make little baby robots. It had diversity. The audience hates diversity, or at least maybe it's more accurate to say the audience hates diversity the way these globalist idiots are pushing it. And it had feminist Margot Robbie who didn't need a man to come rescue her. People hate feminism. Then in the first movie, she's in shorts and a tank top, and she's, a psychopath, but she's at least a sexy psychopath. Then in the second, and Birds of Prey, movie that nobody saw, they avoided the male gaze and the male audience. Movies like that are just checklist movies. They hit all the diversity stuff, but nothing lands. It just feels like a weird play-by-the-numbers type of movie. Like, people go there, they say the lines, there's CGI explosions in the background. Everything is good. The sound, the film work, the technical aspects of the movie are a $200 million movie. But then you walk away from the movie and you're like, what did you just watch? I don't know, but I don't want to see it again. Black Widow was what's her face, Scarlett Johansson had the similar kind of movie. Um, Terminator did something similar. It's just it sounds great on paper when you've got a mountain of Bolivian marching powder, and you've got, look, we'll put all this woke diversity in it, and chop another line, and you go, yeah, but the audience has to pay to see it. Oh, what do you mean? They're not going to pay the $18 to go see this movie? No, they're not. It only sounds good in your head because you're just high as a eagle's nuts. So the audience is getting away from woke, but Hollywood is leaning into it, so they're experiencing a shrinking audience. Hollywood actually peaked in the 1930s to the 1940s, and then it had a decline, and then it had a little bit of a resurgence in the 1980s with those, great, silly 80s movies. Airplane was probably the best example of that. And they're in a sharp decline now, and even somebody interviewed Zemeckis for Airplane, and they're like, yeah, you couldn't do almost any of that movie today, even though it was a legitimately funny movie for the time. Or Top Secret with Val Kilmer. That was another just really big classic. Woke is what killed Hollywood. The movies would be unwatchable no matter what, but because of the rise of people making their own, rolling their own videos with cell phones, and then working their way up to get to like the quartering level, the small content creators, you can get online with a digital circle of friends and just like get away from political correctness. And it's not just the rise of YouTube. What was that, like 2015 when they got bought out by Google, that provides an alternative. It's that even YouTube is much less politically correct than Hollywood, especially on live streams. And then you can go on from YouTube to the other streaming platforms that are, Rumble's a step up, and DLive, and then Odyssey is more free speech, and then I guess the final boss would be GTV. Poor one. Anyway, it's like there are free speech platforms available, and people can get on them and just talk like normal people who live in the real world, where you actually say politically incorrect things simply because you want to, and you don't have these woke political commissars over your shoulder telling you, oh no, you can't say those words. Like, why exactly? Oh, because it's, and they give you this long Frankfurt School discussion. You go, but I want to say those words because I'm talking to this circle of friends. It's like, if you don't want to hear it, why are you on this Odyssey live stream? And I mean, there's groups of left wing activists who screen record videos and take careful notes, and they have a checklist with the ADL, SPLC, ACLU, and we need to write articles and shut down their free speech. You're like, why do you care what they're saying on these some SPLC article or one of these like BuzzFeed type of things? They work together and they released an article on Odyssey like a few months ago, and it just comes down to, why do you care what a bunch of Odyssey live streamers are doing? It's like they're doing entertainment, they're doing a little news coverage, but there's very well funded groups that are working tirelessly to shut down things like that. It's like, well, if you judge people by their enemies. If you see the people who want to shut down the Odyssey live streams, then you want to go support the Odyssey live streams. The thing is, a good answer to a lot of stuff is like, why do you guys say such politically incorrect things on those other platforms? Is we want to, and who are you to tell us not to? Then you look at Hollywood, and even for Hollywood Fantasyland, it is too far removed from reality. And yeah, Hollywood is supposed to be fantasy, but it's not a neutral one. It's all bullshit propaganda. And I mean that literally. When you have checklists for how much camera time women and non-European groups get, and even the BLTVG propaganda type of stuff, that's the definition of propaganda. When you have a checklist of woke talking points, that's when you look up the definition, that's what it means. And whether propaganda is from the left or the right, it's all fake and lighthearted and frivolous. It's not worth paying for to go to a theater or go to a streaming service. And I don't want to lecture from people. I don't want to lecture from the worst people on earth who, and every time something comes out about Hollywood, like, oh, we knew about Weinstein for years. You look at me like, so you guys have been like lecturing us at your awards ceremony for decades while you knew about these people in the industry, or you fly to islands to abuse kids, or you cheer for, Roman Polanski, and you stand up and all this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like you guys don't have the moral high ground. You know that. Maybe clean up your own industry. we're not going to do that because it affects the bottom line. The thing is, doesn't it seem weird that there's no politically incorrect studios or platforms? That there isn't any mainstream alternative to woke Hollywood? That's what's meant by a captured industry. It's completely captured by this religion of woke bullshies. It's not selling, but they don't care because woke is a religion to them. And Seinfeld has been saying stuff about this for a long time. Woke is cancel culture, they're connected, and it results in a purity spiral with the paralysis of analysis, where what you're seeing in the past, I don't know, a couple of decades is who are the bad guys in movies and who are the good guys? Well, you're going to have an overrepresentation of blonde man bad type of tropes. Even to the point in some movies where they have to dye the actor's hair blonde because they want you to know that this is a Trump character or this is a blonde character. It's like can you give him a German accent? No, that would be just a bridge too far. And a perfect example of this is the Indiana Jones series. 5 movies. 3 out of the 5 movies, guess who the bad guys were? It's pathological, and it's like nobody wants to see another movie about World War II unless it's about maybe the Pacific Theater or something. But that's the only trope that they can push and that they're allowed to push and that they want to push. It's like, well, the audience is done with it. If people have seen it for 50 years, they want other perspectives. Anyway, you're not going to get other perspectives because otherwise Larry Fink and Bob Iger wouldn't allow those things to go forward. So he's right. Hollywood is pretty much over. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.